Hello guys, thank you for joining and welcome to this tutorial on what are functional interfaces in Java 8. We are going to learn what are functional interfaces, how to define a functional interface, some example of functional interface, why they were added to Java 8, some frequently asked questions on functional interfaces, source code location of examples which we are going to work in this tutorial, and practical example of functional interfaces in the workspace. So let's see what is functional interface. Functional interfaces were added in Java 8. The basic thing which you should remember in functional interface is there are interfaces which have just one abstract method. Okay, that is the very simple rule, that any functional interface can have just one abstract method. There is one more rule, but this is the most important thing which you need to remember. You have also used functional interface before Java 8. If that is surprising you, I would like to tell you that they were used informally, in the sense earlier they were known as simple abstract method interface. If you want to know some examples of functional interfaces which you have used before Java 8, just recall runnable interface which had just one method called run, which was implemented by the class which wanted to create a thread. Similarly, there is one more very simple example of comparator. Comparator interface has got one abstract method called compare, which is used for sorting list of objects. So I'm sure a lot of developers have used these two interfaces. There are many more, but these are the very common one. Okay, so even before Java 8, we have been using interfaces which had just one abstract method. To formally declare an interface as a functional interface, all you need to do is you have to annotate the interface with the annotation called functional interface. Okay, so there are two rules if you want to create a functional interface. First of all, you can have only one abstract method. Rule number two is you have to annotate the interface with the annotation @functional interface. Okay, how do you create functional interface? This is just an example. As I mentioned in the previous slide, you have to annotate the interface. So as you can see, there is interface called printable, and we have annotated it with the annotation called functional interface, which is present in java.lang package. Okay, that's all you need to do as far as the annotation goes. So here is a very simple example of a functional interface. This interface is called interest calculator, and it has an annotation called functional interface. It also has one single abstract method called calculate interest. Okay, so this is a perfect example of functional interface. Now, very important question, why was functional interface added to Java 8? So why did they need it? So Java 8 has a new feature called Lambda expressions. So Lambda expressions are kind of a shorthand notation for expressing anonymous classes, and Lambda expressions can take functionality as a parameter. That means you can pass entire functionality which might be in form of function to the Lambda expressions. So these functional interfaces are perfect for them because the lambdas can expect that there will be only one functionality, and then it can very easily execute it without bothering which one of the methods it needs to execute. For example, if there are two abstract methods, then the lambda expression may not be sure which one to execute, and in that case it will throw compilation errors. Okay, so if we will go deeper into lambda expressions in the next tutorial which is coming up shortly, But for now, just understand the main purpose of creating the functional interface in Java 8 was to make sure that we can pass a functionality which implements a functional interface to Lambda expressions. Okay, so it helps Lambda expressions to understand which method to pick for execution. Since there is only going to be one abstract method, so there will be only one single implementation of the abstract method which the Lambda expression will execute. We will see that in an example later on. Here are some frequently asked questions on functional interfaces. Question 1 is, can I have more than one abstract method in functional interface? So as per the rule, there are two rules. First is like you need the annotation, and second rule is you can have only one abstract method. So answer is no, you can't have more than one abstract method. Second is, can a interface with default method or static methods be functional interface? So we saw in the last tutorial in this series that what are default methods. Okay, there is also a possibility that you can declare static methods in interfaces. Okay, so can you have an interface which has one abstract method but it also has default method or static methods? Yes, the answer is yes. So the rule is, again you have to remember, it can have only one abstract method. Other types of methods are still allowed. What about comparator interface? So if you look around and go to the Oracle side and try to see what is the how the comparator method interface looks like, you will see that it has two abstract methods. One is called compare, which is the main method in the comparator interface, and second is the equals method. Okay, so let us see that comparator interface in the Oracle site. So this is the Oracle page for comparator.html, and if you see their abstract method list, it has got two methods. One is compare and one is equals. If you see the declaration of the interface, you will see that it is declared as functional interface, right? So if comparator is a functional interface, how does it allow to abstract methods? So the answer is this equals method actually is present in the object class. Okay, so usually any object, any interface will by default extend the object class. Okay, usually they do it implicitly, but here they are doing it explicitly. As long as the method signature of this equals method is same as what you have in object class, that kind of abstract method is allowed. Okay, that is one exception to the rule. So if there are object class methods in an interface, and even if they are abstract, they are allowed, and this interface can still be functional interface. Fine, so that is the answer to this question. Okay, now let's see some more thing. So here I have mentioned like this is the URL where source code for this tutorial is present. So you can go there, download it, and then play around with the code. Okay, so now we will see some practical examples of functional interface. Okay guys, now let's see some practical example of functional interface. So I have one interface called interest calculator, and I have declared it as functional interface. Okay, it has got only one abstract method called calculate interest amount, which takes two parameters, amount and interest rate, and then it calculates the interest. Okay, how it calculates the interest can depend on the implementation, so that is why we have this interface. So let's try to declare one more abstract method and see what happens. Okay, so I'm saying say hello, and which is abstract method. Now let's see what happens. It says invalid functional interface annotation, interest calculator is not a functional interface. The reason is you can have only one abstract method, okay? So that's the reason. So that is how you have to declare the functional interface. Now what we will do is we will see how it works a little bit more in depth. So I have one account class, and account class has, let's assume that it is a bank account of some kind. It has got an interest calculator within it, okay? So we have set the getters and setters for the interest calculator. Now here is the account tester, okay? So account tester, we are setting amount as 20,000 and rate interest rate as just 5%, let's say. So we create an account class, and we can now, as you can see, we can use this is called lambda expression. We can use lambda expression to calculate the interest rate, okay? So we are setting the interest rate calculator in the account class using this lambda expression, and finally we are saying system.get. So we are calling the calculator, okay, and passing these two amount and the interest rate to this calculator. So how does it work? So it might look very cryptic, but if it looks cryptic, what you need to do is you can, so what I can do is I can comment this and I can uncomment this, okay? So this is the original method. So if you say account dot set interest calculator, since that was the interface, so you have to instantiate an anonymous class instance of this interface. So I'm saying new interest calculator, and then I will say public float calculate interest amount, and I'm returning amount times interest rate. That's all. Okay, that is how the interest rate calculator is getting set in the account class, okay? So the equivalent of this entire implementation is such a small lambda expression. That is why now developers are preferring the lambda expression over the older way of writing anonymous class methods. So the problem with lambda expression is it's going to only take functional interfaces, okay? That is why we have to declare this as functional interface. I can still have both, I can uncomment it and still going to work. So I can run this and you'll see that some 10,000 amount is getting printed. Now let's experiment a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this, okay? So what happens now? So we go here. So we can see, although I commented it, still there is no compile errors, okay? So although I am not saying it's a functional interface, this lambda is still taking it as functional interface. So isn't it like a funny thing? Like we talked that lambda expression need functional interfaces, but it's still able to work. So let's do something else. Now what we will do is we will implement one more abstract method. We'll just say hello, okay, that's all, and there is no compile error. Why? Because we have removed this annotation, okay? But as soon as we go here, we can see now the lambda expression is angry on us, okay? It's saying, why the hell are you telling me to work on this interface which has got two methods? I can't work on it, okay? So it's saying that the method set interest rate calculator in the type account is not applicable for no amount. So it's now confused which one to take, okay? And what does this guy say? This guy say that the target type of expression should be functional interface, okay? So that is the problem. And what about this guy? So this guy is saying there are two two methods, but you have not implemented both of them. So this guy can be resolved because it was using anonymous class, right? But lambda expression will not work without functional interface. So that is why what we need to do is we have to go back to the interest calculator and remove this guy and uncomment this guy. Okay, so now this is going to work fine. Okay, so this is how it works. So just before we wind up, one more little thing. So we have I'm going to show something else. So this is runnable interface, which is a functional interface, and if you hover over it, you can see it says functional interface here, right? And my runnable is extending runnable, so my runnable by default becomes functional interface as well. Okay, now if you go to this test my runnable tester.java, you can instantiate threads just like runnable, but instead of that I'm using my runnable like this. So with lambda expressions, this is how the same method. Okay, in fact I'm sorry, from here to here you are expressing it in just these small lines. Okay, so here also what you can do is you can play around. Okay, so you can uncomment this line, for example. So I have added one abstract method. Okay, since I have added one abstract method, now this guy is going to complain because this is a lambda expression. Now it is very sure that is not working with a functional interface, so it's not happy. So that's how it's complaining. So if I just comment it back, so it's going to work again. Okay, so all the compilers are gone. So I hope this was useful to you, and you'll try this code and try to practice so that it's uh, understanding is very clear to you. In case you have liked it, please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any questions, please write it in the comment section below. Thank you for joining, and I hope to see you soon in the next tutorial. Bye bye.